everyone, today we're diving into a topic that's near and dear to my heart, note-taking. Now, whether you're a game master or a player, keeping good notes can make a huge difference in your game. So let's break down some key strategies for taking notes and explore the pros and cons of digital versus physical note-taking. Now, this is not my first video on note-taking. I've done one for game masters and one that was more player-focused, but that was a little while ago, and if I'm honest, I don't always do what I talked about in those videos. Some of it has just been like, my personal preferences have changed over the years, and some of it is I just don't have the time to make my notebook super aesthetic or organized. I have time to sit down and play. If I have time to sit down and play, I'm lucky. All right, so there are two main methods for how you take your notes, digital or physical notes. Both have their perks and drawbacks, and it's really going to be a personal preference. Let's start with digital. I have delved into digital notes, especially when I'm a game master. I find this a very helpful method of session prep. I find digital is just a little bit easier for me to keep big picture organized. And as someone who does like having things organized and being able to cross-reference them easily, I can do this in a digital notebook much easier than physical. I can copy paste, I can rearrange a lot easier. And I have the feeling the next campaign I create and run will be organized in Notion. You can actually go check out a review of a Notion template that we did, and I really liked the way this was set up. The digital notes allow you to very quickly, from a session notes area, click on jumping into a notes just about that NPC or just about that session or location, and then be able to jump right back to those session notes, all with the click of a button. Now, the drawback I have with keeping digital notes, especially player notes, is it's hard to search if you don't have the exact spelling right or you aren't sure exactly what it is you're searching for. And having those searchable databases or keywords, tags that you can use to help organize is something that I don't often have the time or focus to do during session. I want to be paying attention to session and not organization, the game. I've found as a player, I rarely look at my notes between sessions nowadays, let alone look at them to organize them. Now, one reason I may try digital note-taking as a player at some point is you can create a shared notebook for your group. Everyone can contribute, and you can have a central hub of information the entire party has access to. I can see this working really well in a detective or heist, something where there's a lot of information gathering. Plus, I can also see this being very helpful if you have a player who missed a session. They can just read through the notes to see what they missed, and you don't have to waste time recapping once the next session starts. Now, while I have dabbled in digital notes, I have a feeling I'm going to keep coming back to physical notes. There's just something special about putting pen to paper. And look, studies have shown that writing things down physically helps with memory retention. I know it does for me. That's why I keep a bullet journal and lists on paper and not just on my computer. I also have lists on my computer as well for ease. I also find it's easier for me to find information in a physical book or over digital documents. There's just something about the way my brain works that I can recall where in the notebook a note is, even if I can't remember what that exact note or name was. I can remember, it was from this session and it was 2/3 of the way down the page. That's a lot harder when you're just scrolling. You can also add doodles, sketches, little symbols, or easily switch out the colors of your pens or pencils to differentiate information. And let's be honest, there's just something very satisfying about flipping through your old campaign notes, feeling the pages and seeing the little things that happened in game session, that I spilled a drink here, or I almost wore out the page erasing how many hit points I had during this combat encounter because I kept going down. It becomes a cool memento from your adventures, something that you can cherish long after that campaign ends. I've got almost all of my notebooks from previous sessions, like, organized on a shelf, and it's nice to kind of look at them and be like, the memories I had. All right, now on to some more general note-taking tips I've learned over the years. And these are what work for me, so take them or leave them, as, everybody is going to be different. While I love having a character journal with space for my character sheet, spells, backstory, and lots of session notes, I've actually found I prefer having a separate character sheet, or at least one that I can pull out from the notebook. This is, in-person games, I like to always have my session notes open. So a separate character sheet I can have sitting next to my notebook to easily reference during the game. And when I've been playing online, I just end up using the character sheet that's within the digital tabletop we've been playing. I'm rolling on there anyhow, so why not just use that character sheet? Now, I do like to also have my character sheet written down for online games. That way, if there's a software glitch or I can't find something in the digital character sheet, I know I have the information. So I still do really enjoy the notebooks that and journals that have those character sheets, and I am always happy to review more of them if anyone has any suggestions or ones you want to send to us to be featured and reviewed. We have a P.O. box. Okay, now let's talk inventory. Whether you're an artificer with an assortment of gadgets, a wizard with spell components, you're carrying the party's bag of holding, or you're just a barbarian with a lot of axes, write your inventory down. This is something I keep on its own page. I'll often note in my session notes when I get items, and sometimes from where, if there are things I might go back and buy again, or I'll write down if someone in the group got an item. And then I'll also write that down on the inventory page. And I tend to have here's my personal inventory and here's the party's inventory as a whole, just because then if somebody forgot something, I have it written down because I'm the note taker. I think it just makes it so much easier if all of your stuff is in one place. You can easily see how many health potions I have, or if you're trying to figure out, I need to break into the library, I'm looking through my inventory. Are there any items here that might help? Aha, I have a bottle of magic ink that I can just draw a hole on the wall and it will make a hole in the wall and I can just walk right in. Being able to look at your inventory to help that spark ideas is so much easier than flipping through pages and pages of session notes. On a similar note, spells are a great thing to organize in your notes. Recently, I've been quite enjoying spell cards over having them written down in my notebook, especially when I'm playing a spellcaster with a more limited amount of spells. I'll often just pull out the cards I'm thinking of using in a situation, like in combat, and kind of set them next to my character sheet so I can kind of be like, okay, great, the situation changed. I'm not going to use this spell, but I'll use this other combat spell. I also always make sure to write down the page number of the spells, and I do tend to write out all my spells in my notebook, even if it's just the spell name and a very short description. Again, it's just having that kind of at a glance, what are all the spells that I have? And especially if you are somebody who needs to prepare different spells every day, that way you can keep track of what spells have I prepared today. A big thanks to all of our patrons, especially Alicia. If you enjoy our videos, please consider heading on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative and check out the perks of being a patron. We love making these videos for you, and becoming a patron is the best way to support us. Okay, let's get back to the video. Now, my next note, I often fall victim to. I write too much. This comes from having interviewed people for my job where I need to capture every detail of what they are saying. But in games, I usually don't actually need to do that. So I've been working to kind of pare down how much I'm writing down and kind of follow the less is more. So sticking with key points or interesting moments as things to write down. Write down the name and a brief description of who the NPC is. Kind of some bullet points of what happened in the session or where we did. The things I do try to write verbatim are riddles, job contracts, or things like letters that we may need to reference, or I want to make sure we completely understand. Looking at You deals with the Fae and your weird loopholes or exact wording. But most of the time, keeping it concise and being a little bit more vague and using bullet points is going to make your notes, you'll be able to look back on and know what happened and reference things without having to dig through so many notes. And that's where I've fallen victim. I've written like huge paragraphs on things where I'm like, I don't have time to necessarily read through this whole paragraph to figure out like what the NPC's name was or what thing it is that they gave us. In my previous player video, I talked about I would rewrite my notes, taking them from pencil to pen and organizing, clarifying, adding little cute symbols. Who has time for that? Certainly not anyone with kids. So these days, I stick to just writing in pen or sometimes pencil. I underline and use boxes to make key info stand out, like an NPC's name or an item. It's just faster, easier, and still effective. I used to have these specific symbols for different things, but as I haven't been gaming as regularly, I've found it harder to remember do I put a triangle or a box next to an NPC name. So I just names, places, things, all underlined, and I can at least find them on the page. Now I have started adding a question mark symbol to any like theories I have or things I want to circle back to. This has been helpful for moments where like there was something I wanted to ask about or investigate, but at the time that I had that thought, it was not the time to investigate. But I want to make that note to remind myself like, hey, when I do get a chance, I want to go back here and take a closer look at this painting. And with some of the theories, it's been fun to kind of look back on once like the big bad is revealed and be like, how close was I at the beginning? Was I completely wrong, or did I have some of it figured out? That's just a fun, like, can give yourself a nice pat on the back moment if you figured it out early on. Another thing I still need to get a little better about doing is ask your game master how to spell names, how to spell place names, how to spell NPC names. I struggle with this, and, in our Beyond the Witchlight campaign, I think I've spelled the hags and archfays names like a half a dozen different ways. Instead, I should have just been like, how do I spell them? Write a quick, like, here are the key NPC names, so I spell them the same all the time. And I think this is especially important if you're taking digital notes and you want to be able to search, ask for the spelling, or pick a consistent spelling and like make yourself a quick guide so you can use that same spelling every single time. Lastly, let's talk about player versus character knowledge. I often write down stuff the table knows, but I make a point to note when my character doesn't know that info. This is super useful, especially if you're the party's designated note taker. It it keeps track of what the party knowledge is, but it also helps avoid metagaming and keeps the roleplay more authentic. Now, on the flip side, some people may choose to only take notes on what their character knows or would be interested in. Now, this approach can really help you stay in character and focus on the roleplay without feeling the need to like act on information your character wouldn't have. For me, I find I'm not too tempted to metagame, and I usually end up playing the inquisitive, like, problem solver characters, so it makes sense for my character to just know about everything they can. Like, if there's something that I don't know, my character doesn't know, they're probably going to find it out soon. So it's helpful for me to just write it down when it comes up rather than need like, okay, when that player fills my character in on that info, needing to recap everything. So since I've made my first note-taking video, I've definitely fluctuated on how in-depth and aesthetic I've made my notes. I'll put a couple of like inserts of pages of actual notes, especially from some of the stream games so that you can see. A lot has to do with the amount of free time I've had and the vibe of the game or like how I've been feeling that day. Now, I found online games can be difficult to take really detailed notes, as it can seem like I'm not engaged in the game, because it, may look like I'm paying attention to something that's down here off camera instead of paying attention to the screen and the other people I'm playing with. And I would certainly love to have beautifully organized, color coordinated notes, but that's just not going to work for me right now. I still take notes and they still come in handy. I definitely use the notes that I've taken in our Beyond the Witchlight campaign, and very glad that I keep taking notes. And as this campaign is kind of wrapping up, it's going to be nice to have that notebook to be able to look back on and reminisce on the game. Okay, so whether you're a digital devotee or a physical note taker, the key is really finding what's going to work best for you and your game. Experiment, play around. Taking good notes can really enhance your experience and help you keep track of all the twists and turns in your campaign. Thanks for joining me today. If you have any note-taking tips that you swear by, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And remember, it's not just about the notes you take, but how they help bring your character and story to life. So I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! The lighting was all over the place 'cause I have the window open.